Hey, what's up, guys? This is Negative. This video here is about partial automatic smash DI, PASDI, and how it's different from automatic smash DI in Smash Brothers Melee. And so maybe you haven't really heard much about this. It's kind of a new thing, at least for me. So I figured I'd make a video just to talk about it and what some of the differences are, whether or not it's useful. And from there, we can talk about like how it's performed and all the other things that go into it. But I'm going to be reading off a script. This is kind of going to be a longer video, so I'm trying to do it in one take instead of having like a billion different cuts that I got to edit in Premiere and stuff, because I got other things to do as well. So here it goes. But this is not an introductory video. It kind of expects that you at least know or have some working knowledge of what Smash DI and automatic Smash DI are, how they work. So to keep it short, Smash DI is when you press a direction on your control stick, right, during hit stun frames, and your character will translate. Let's say you press to the left after you're in hit stun, right? You're in hit stun, you got hit. Now you tap left, you translate your character one Smash DI unit to the left, right? If you press down, you're going to translate your character one Smash DI unit downward. And it's a set distance, right? It's a set distance. It doesn't change how far you go, right? You always go the same length. So automatic smash DI is a similar type of thing, but you can do it with the control stick or the C stick, but the C stick out prioritizes the control stick. So your control stick can be doing one thing, and if you press the C stick, then you're going to get that for your ASDI. So you can basically like do like dashes and stuff like that with your control stick while still be ASDIing in case you get hit, by holding down on the C stick, let's say, right? But when let's say I'm holding the C stick to the left, I get hit. I'm gonna like translate myself about half of a full smash DI distance, right? ASDI translates your character about roughly half of the distance of a full smash DI. So this is what I would just call one ASDI, unit length, right? So that's kind of how it works. And so, yeah, let's get into this. So basically, the first question that we'll answer is, what is partial automatic smash DI anyways, right? And how is it any different from regular ASDI where you're holding the C stick down? And then from there, we'll cover how's it performed, how's it used, when is it useful, and maybe provide some limited data that I've managed to gather so far that serves as an example of a particular matchup, i.e. Marth versus Falco. And then, yeah, so partial automatic smash DI, downward, PASDI. What does it do, right? Well, ASDI down, normal ASDI down, is typically performed by holding the C stick down and running around the stage and throwing out attacks and whatever else, right? And if your character gets hit, right, if you get tagged by a move, then since you're holding the C stick down, depending on what percent you're at and how strong the attack is, you might stay standing, right? You might undergo like instantly land and get 4 frames of landing lag, and then from there you can counterattack your opponent because you're just standing, right? Or 2 frames of landing lag if you're Pichu, broke! Or extra frames of landing lag if you're Ganon or Bowser or any of the fat, heavy characters who get punished for simply touching the ground. Fucking Jesus. But sometimes when you're hit with a strong move, instead of landing and being like instantly landing and being able to counterattack the opponent, you'll be knocked to the ground and you're forced into a tech chase. Now, this is the same exact percent and situation where if you hit L or R, you can tech it, right? You can, that's where you can OMSA tech. So, or, floor tech or whatever, right? Like you can basically tech off the floor instead of getting knocked down. Just like if you were to get hit and fall into a knockdown state, it's the same thing, except you just started on the ground and now you're getting knocked down. So, yeah. Partial automatic smash DI, though, it works a little differently, right? It allows you to choose angles where some or even all of the moves that a character has will not knock you down. And, if they would knock you down, maybe they give you normal knockback instead. But they still provide the perks of that instantly landing into counterattack type stuff, against various moves at various percents. So it's kind of like, no knockdowns, but I still got my ASDI stuff. So let's talk about how to perform it, right? And then we can bicker about the details of whether or not it's useful and how it can be used. So first off, it can be accomplished either without precision, right? Like you can just kind of know what angles you want to hold on your C-stick and then just kind of roughly get that angle. Or you can be performed with precision using C-stick notches or box settings or even modified gates for the C-stick, right? But usually that's, you can use the control stick too, but that's going to get out prioritized by the C-stick for ASDI. So, and it's probably busy doing other things. So maybe the control stick isn't the best one to notch. You want to notch your C-stick, right? Now, ASDI has a set distance that the character gets translated after being hit. And because of that, it doesn't matter if you're only partially tilting in the downward direction. If you're just like, let's say I'm tilting downward, right? It doesn't matter if I'm only tilting a little bit down or all the way down. You're going to go downward one ASDI distance, right? That's 1 unit. That's it. So you get the full ASDI down if you just hold down. It doesn't matter how far you tilt it, right? And so how do we get partial downward smash DI? That's the question. So I'm just going to crack out, a poorly made prop real quick so I can demonstrate to you guys how this works. And, don't make fun of me because of my ghetto rig, but hopefully this will be relatively clear. So here I've got a paper with a red circle on it, right? And let's just say our character is right up here in the top corner, right? Right here in the top corner. And this chord here, this is from the top corner down to this red circle. This is one smash DI, one automatic smash DI length, right? And in the downward direction. So if I go straight down, I'm getting the full downward ASDI. But as I start to go more horizontal, and it gets very clear over here on the side, you can see I'm still DIing one full ASDI length, right? But the difference is the vertical component, right, is much shorter. It's a smaller amount in the downward direction than it was before. And so this is kind of the key to partial ASDI down. Basically, the most important thing to know is that with partial and regular ASDI down, you can't change the percent that you get knocked down at. It's the same percentage that you're going to get knocked down at, regardless of if you've got a shallow angle or the steepest angle. Okay? But what PASDI does change is that it changes what percent you receive normal knockback at. And so if that percent happens at or before the knockdown percent, then you can't get knocked down by that move anymore, right? So the dream is dead of being able to ASDI to a higher percent before getting knocked down, but instead we use it to minimize the knockdown percent range even to virtually zero, right? And we're basically fine-tuning our angle to give us what we would consider an optimal percentage for normal knockback. And we'll talk about that a little later. So boiling this down into a nutshell, a shallower angle will protect against knockback from stronger moves. It'll protect against knockdown, from stronger moves, right? Because the move is stronger, it's more likely to knock you to the ground, but you're using a much weaker ASDI, and so it actually will pop you up at earlier percents, and so you can basically get normal knockback at an earlier percent to the point where you can tune it to where it happens at the knockdown percent, and now you don't get knocked down anymore, right? So the shallower angle protects against knockdown from stronger moves, but it often provides normal knockback at lower percents, where a steeper angle could still have gotten ASDI and instantly landed into their counterattack. So normal knockback means one thing. The normal knockback is not necessarily bad. What it means is there was no penalty for you performing ASDI, but there was no advantage either, right? You got normal knockback. So it's like, just meh. Okay, cool. We didn't get anything. But meanwhile, the steeper angle will allow us to have stronger moves that can knock us down into a tech chase situation. But it also allows for the light and medium hit moves to now be ASDI'd to optimal percentages, right? To where it's not going to actually give us normal knockback until the exact percent that we would normally get knocked down. So we can fine tune it. Oftentimes, if you've got a character that has both strong moves and weak moves, you have two different angles that are kind of optimal, right? The one that you can't get knocked down by anything, but unfortunately, certain moves like, Falco's dash attack, you now get normal knockback at like 2%, whereas the other one, you're going to get knocked down by aerials like Nair and down air. But at the same time, that happens at like 38% or so. So you can kind of up until 30, which is, knockdown percent normally for dash attack, you can actually just get your regular ASDI and then switch to the other one where you can't get knocked down by the aerials. So you can kind of have the best of both worlds if you just have two angles. But there's like, a reason to use one and then switch over to the other one, and now you get the best of both worlds. Now, using PASDI in this way, you effectively reduce the knockdown percent range for moves to 0. And so let's talk about its usefulness, right? Is it useful to do that? Well, there's some community disagreement about whether or not it's useful to get knocked down by your opponent's moves and how commonly these situations come about, right? Is this just, okay, it's some kind of theoretical advantage, but it seems so obscure that, like, who gives a shit? Well, it's not something that's hard to do. Instead of holding straight down on your control stick, you hold it at an angle, either shallower or steeper, right? So this is not something that, like, if you're already holding C-stick down and you already kind of know how to do that while you're moving around and doing stuff, then this is a very simple change to make. The question is whether or not now you're cognizant of when it's appropriate to use it, and maybe the situations where you didn't want to get knocked down before, so you didn't use it, now you can still use it and not have to worry about getting knocked down, right? So let's kind of cover what some people think about it. So my own opinion on this is that, one argument is that some people would rather be grounded into an OMS attack instead of getting knocked back as usual. And a launch or a pop-up, right, your normal knockback is just getting hit by the move as you usually would. Roughly the same knockback and momentum that you would normally have if you didn't ASDI down. My opinion on this is that it's one thing to throw out a risky move and plan ahead by also holding the C-stick down and readying yourself to hit an OMS attack, right? That's basically an option select where you're basically option selecting the tech in case they punish you. In the same way that someone might mash buttons after they throw out a laggy move against the ice climbers. Like, just in case they grab me, I've got a bunch of button presses buffered and ready to go to break out of this shit. So this is fundamentally different than using ASDI as a option select in the neutral game. Like, i.e., I'm dashing around, I'm moving around, I'm attacking, and if I get tagged by a move, I get ASDI and instantly land and can counterattack, or normal knockback if the move was too strong and, no one's any the wiser, right? So holding it straight down, however, means now I must react momentarily on a pure reaction to needing to tech. Otherwise, I could be in a very bad position, depending on if the character has a strong tech chase. So, and what my options are during tech chase, right? Because some characters don't have great options on tech chase. So This is at almost all percents for medium or heavy hitting characters, and around 20% for characters with lighter moves like Sheik, that you have to worry about literally needing to Omps attack everything. In the Marth vs. Falco matchup, for example, these Omps attacks could come in, from doing normal ASDI down. These Omps attack requirements happen as low as 4%. In fact, with side B, it's at 0%. You get knocked down at 0 from side B from Falco. At 0%, you need to be ready to Omps attack it. With PASDI, with the correct angle, you won't get knocked down at any percent by side B. It's always a pop-up. So with regular ASDI down, you have to be ready to Omps attack on a moment's notice in the neutral at any time. And if you're literally planning on having to Omps attack every single move you're tagged with starting at 0, and that's your mindset from the start of the match in neutral, that's a tall order. Foxes routinely miss the tech on Jigglypuff's full DI in back air, and where if they miss the tech, Jigglypuff lands and jab reset rest, and it's literally tech or die. So in my opinion, expecting yourself to have and hit these techs instantly on a pure reaction, it seems unreasonable, especially with, knockdown percents that can range into the hundreds or 200s, right? Depending on the move. So whether or not you can react fast enough on Falco's F smash at 4% onward, yeah, probably. Sheik's F tilt at 25%, probably not. And talking CC, right? Crouch cancel, get up attack, ledge get up. Yeah, you're probably going to crouch cancel, right? It's better than ASDI options. But you know ahead of time what you're trying to do, and your opponent has limited options. So moving around in the neutral, you're probably not going to be crouch canceling much, right? Unless you're getting ready to down tilt, or you're testing their response to your crouch, or you have some matchup specific advantage like Crouching Puff does, then crouch canceling isn't really going to be used in the neutral in the same way as PASDI, right? It's not like one is just the substitute for the other, right? It's a different thing entirely. And lastly, let's not forget some characters may have shitty get-up attacks, right? Or shitty techs and tech rolls like Mewtwo and Game & Watch, right? Their fucking head sticks on the ground and they take forever and then they finally roll. These characters, especially if they're lower tier characters with limited offensive or defensive options or tools, they may need every defensive option they can get. So for them, not being knocked down but still being able to punish moves after getting hit in the neutral may be quite worthwhile. Not every character is Marth or Fox and has the world at their fingertips. So personally, Melee's a great game because, the specific character matchup, the stages, the percents, the positioning, all factor into how particularly useful a tactic is. And nothing is going to work all the time. So let's say I'm moving around in the neutral, I'm throwing out some non-committal moves, this depends on the matchup and other factors, obviously, but in general, I prefer to hold the stick in a position that guarantees that if I happen to unexpectedly get tagged by a move, then, I'm not going to get knocked down, but, at worst, either I get my 4 frames of landing lag into a counterattack or just normal knockback, right? And I'm not forced into having to react into an Omps attack like, on a moment's notice. Because I feel like in the neutral, I want something that's going to be at least more reliable than that. Obviously, Melee is a complex game. There are definitely situations where being knocked down in the neutral is preferred to normal knockback, right? If you're on a platform, you can get platform slide off. If you're sandwiched between the opponent and the ledge, you can get slide off into ledge grab. And both of these options are great, and they don't require you to react with an Omps attack to get a better situation out of being hit, right? You don't have to react. Because you're holding it, it just happens. So it's not really like as short-term a reaction as literally hitting the tech window. And additionally, Omps attack is routinely punished by many players and often depends on the stage position, what amount of percent you have, like how much momentum is going to carry over after the tech, or how laggy the move the person was using that they hit you with, because if it wasn't very laggy, then they can just punish the tech too, right? And other reasons you might want to get knocked down. Let's say you're using a great character like Pikachu, whose tech in place has only 2 vulnerable frames. and you can mix that up into get up attack or, whatever else, then these are like great options. So, maybe for you, ASDI down is actually really good. But if you're playing a character that has good pop-ups, let's say, into air juggles, maybe you would also rather stay grounded, Um, especially if that type of character has poor tech chase. And you're like, yeah, I avoid the combos and I put them in a position that they're not necessarily strong at, then that's fantastic. But if the character you're playing against has godlike tech chase, maybe not, Or maybe normal knockback from PASDI will also give you the chance to DI and pop up and slide off of a side platform and get the slide off DI, right? All of these things factor in when choosing to normal ASDI or partial ASDI down, and it's not black and white. So, all right, guys, I'm nearing the end of this video. I'm going to wrap this up by showing you this Excel spreadsheet that I've had on the screen here this whole time, right? And kind of just talk about a little bit of it. It's basically some of the data that I had from Marth versus Falco. I'm only really showing this one because this is the only one I've had the time to fully fill out. I really kind of just was testing all this stuff out, literally like yesterday. But, there was some demand for a video at least to explain the concept. So I figured that it would be worthwhile to make this first before I actually go ahead and fill out the rest of the data. Because who knows how long that'll take me with school and everything else going on. But over here, right, we can see that we've got Falco, and we tracked some different moves, right? Jab, back air, up tilt, down tilt, nair, down air, F smash, shine, side B, get up attack, and dash attack. Basically, pretty much all the moves that I can expect that you can get tagged with in the neutral at some point, or while you're dashing around, or you're dashing into someone who's happens to be knocked down, and you didn't hit your CC in time, let's say. These are all kind of things that you could get hit with that it might be useful to have ASDI, right? So I didn't put some of the other things where they simply don't knock down ever, or I don't know, stuff with if it was Fox, right? I'm not gonna really put shine because it's just weight dependent set knockback, stuff like that. But so here we have CC, right? First we have just crouch cancel, and crouch cancel is usually a really strong option. But crouch cancel is typically requiring you not to be moving around and throwing out attacks, right? So here for crouch cancel, you can see jab doesn't knock down till 224. That's pretty good. And typically I've colored this with a color scheme to where, let me just go showcase the legend real quick. So we've got optimal is green with the dark text. That's literally the optimal percentage that you can have. It pops up on the same percent that it would normally knock down, right? So for PASDI, that's considered optimal. Good would be it's pretty decent, as far as what percentage you can get to or whatever. It's not bad. White's neutral. It's it's not great. It's not bad by any means, right? Not great. That's it's undesirable, but just slightly undesirable. Bad would be, God damn it. And really bad is God damn it. So, CC, right? Here we got CC. And you can tell there's a lot of green with CC. There's a lot of good stuff. And obviously, the color coding is going to be a bit, subjective. Me saying, okay, well, I think that, this is kind of a high range to get hit by, to get knocked down by a particular move. But, if it was lower, I would have made it red. But 65, I still might want to CC higher than 65 before I get knocked down. Maybe I want to CC to 80 something. You could see 84 here. I said, okay, 84 is good, But 80 was where I started to say, that's probably on the fringe of me saying, well, it could be better, right? And maybe I could make that one white. So obviously there's a little bit of subjective, creeping in here, especially when I'm comparing the option against the other ones. So a lot of this, the coloration is also based on, well, how well do other ones do at it too. Like, because it might be good, but then it's completely trumped by how good a different one is, or vice versa. So, like, for example, here, I also took into account, like, Shine, for example. Almost every other move, I considered Knockdown at 0 to be very bad. But for Shine especially, I considered it to be very good, right? Because, one, CC is the only way that you're going to get knocked down by Shine. None of the other ones will knock it down at any percent. It will not do anything except pop you up at 0, which I consider to be very bad because Falco hits Shine because he wants to go into an aerial Shine combo, right? So if he hits with that and you pop up, that's exactly what he wants. And it's one of the worst scenarios you can get against this character. So, that's why I consider Knockdown here to be a very good thing. And pop up at like 96 to be good because literally that's as good as it gets, right? The next column over, we've got ASDI. So this column here, we can see that ASDI, a lot more red in it than CC, right? If you look at this knockdown column, you will see that most of the things that we're worried about getting tagged with in the neutral will knock us down at very low percentages. 34, 20, 11, 38, 38, 4. This one just pops us up at 0, right? Worst possible scenario. 0, 0, and 30. So, only thing that's got a decent percentage on it to not knock us down is jab. That we can, okay, we don't get knocked down till 135. That's pretty decent, right? And pop up at 204. But getting knocked down by all these moves between 20 and 30s is kind of troubling. And the problem is that they don't stop knocking you down until you are literally like in the 90s for a lot of these things. So that's where we're looking at ASDI and we're saying, these red columns could be green if knockdowns are fantastic. You can literally just invert the colors of this graph, right? Or this spreadsheet little, this little area here, this rectangle. You can just invert these colors and you can see, if knockdown's good, how you're doing now, right? But if knockdown's bad, we can see ASDI down is not something that we want, at least for, whichever moves that we're actually worried about in the neutral here. Like if we're worried about dash attack and we know we can get knocked down at 30, then we need to be aware that if we're holding C-stick down, we're getting knocked down at 30 to 71. So that's a roughly 40% where it's going to be happening, right? Here, we got stuff that 197% from 0 to 197, 0 to 169, 38 to 105. This is aerial moves right here. So, these are going to be knocking us down for a while. This is not going to just be, oh, well, there's a small percent range and then we get popped up. No, these are significant knockdown ranges. If we look now to compare ASDI with partial ASDI, I have two different partial ASDI angles that I kind of tuned here. So I'm going to just kind of leave these both up on the screen at the same time. Let's just scoot this one over because it's got some room on the left there. There we go. Now we can see all the numbers. Oh, no, it hates me. Is it literally squaring up by the... Oh, fuck you. All right, well, the first column, not very important. Mostly it's green for almost all these, right? Standing at 0. But for the columns that really matter, knocked down versus not getting knocked down, here we've got PASDI, right? Boom. No moves knocked down at any percent, period. None of them. And optimal knockdowns for the aerial moves. Back air and down air and nair, right? These are knocking down at literally the knockdown percent. They instead just give you normal knockback. That's what pop-up is. It's just, you get pop back, you just get your normal knockback. Meanwhile, this is a whole different monster. Like the difference between this and this is actually staggering. And depending on which one's better for you, either this one's way better or this one's way better. But they're two completely different situations. But even though there's a lot of green between these two different PASDI angles, these two also have significant differences. So this one, for example, dash attack, we get normal knockback at 2%. So at 2%, we get normal knockback that sucks. Because you can actually get up to 30% before you get normal knockback. Whereas this one gets normal knockback at 30%. That's optimal, right? So this one will not get knocked down by anything, but you can see that because the angle is so light, right? It's also not allowing us to, it's giving us suboptimal, ASDI down for things that we could normally counterattack to higher percentages. So that's the trade-off between these two, right? One's a steeper angle and one's a more shallow angle. And so same thing here, right? Pop up, normally we can SDI jab and won't get normal knockback until 135. Here it's at 88, right? So it's a little bit less. But goddamn, those aerials are nice, right? Here, up tilt and down tilt, pop up, we get normal knockback at 0. So it's not doing anything for us for up tilt and down tilt. Literally, it does nothing for us. It's just like normally just getting hit with, up tilt and down tilt at any percent. Doesn't matter. Whereas this one, at least for the lower percentages, because up tilt and down tilt are strong knockback moves. So if we're fine tuning to have, dash attack optimal and optimal D tilt, right? Both of these are optimal. And when I mean optimal, right, like I said, the knockdown percentages never change. So if you look, we can see optimal percent for knockdown is, or to get normal knockback for PASDI, optimal would be at 30. Because if it was at 31, then at 30% we could get knocked down. So this is kind of how it works, right? So that's why this is optimal. That's why 38 and 38 for our down aerial and our nair, those are optimal, right? Because that is literally the percent that we would normally get knocked down. So if that's the percent where we're finally getting normal knockback, then we've got an optimal setup. Same thing, 11 for D tilt. There we've got 11, that's optimal. 20 for up tilt, unfortunately we have 15 here. We lost some of it by trying to fine tune getting less knockdown on jab and also gaining some of these other ones. So basically you have to find some fine tuning between your light hits and your heavy hits and somewhere in the middle. And so you're going to get trade-offs, right? So that's why you can see there's a stark difference even between this and this. But this is kind of what you're looking for when you're figuring out what a quality angle is for a particular matchup. And the goal is for me to go through the relevant matchups. Like here I've got, let me go back to the, here I've got Falco and then Fox and Falcon and Sheik and Marth and Peach. And I plan to do a lot of the, significant and relevant matchups, for my character, Marth. And then basically look and see, okay, well, here, after all of our little, ASDI and CC stuff, we have the settings. So this is like the particular, C-stick coordinates that I'm hitting to get these results. And I can basically say, okay, well, is there a good middleman between all these matchups? Are there 2 or 3 angles that are really working well across the entire matchup spread for my particular character? And from that point, we can actually use those, in addition to ASDI down and CC to make life easier for us. So that, guys, is partial ASDI in a nutshell. Hope it made things a bit clearer. I'm sorry I'm not Kadano and I didn't spend a ton of time, recording specific clips of how to use it in different situations and percents, and putting nice text overlays over the video. I'm a full-time student right now in my 4th year, so I'm typically working on these videos in between my homework load. I don't really have time for that kind of a project unless I wanted to delay getting this video out to you guys for, a month or two. But because there was considerate, feedback of people asking for me to explain it better, I figured that, maybe in the future that's a possibility. But right now I just need to get something out to appease the public concern. So yeah, that's it. Whether you think it's worthwhile, whether you think it's useful for your character, let me know in the comments. And at least it's out there now and hopefully better understood. So take it easy, guys. Peace, and I'll see you around.